do not be alarmed. I repeat, do not be alarmed. Welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, my name is Judith and I am doing a spooky season series where I talk about scary stories, horror stories, creepy things that have happened. I am on episode, I believe, 3 or 4. One of those two. Let's get straight into it though. So of course the spooky series is scary stories and makeup, so I'll be doing my makeup while I tell you guys about some creepy stories. I'm kind of sad because I am going to put a wig on after this, but I feel like the blonde would have been a great look with the red. Like, it's popping, so I'm a little sad that I didn't style my hair, but it's okay. It's gonna go up in a bun. I just wanted to show off my little ears my little ears that I custom made at home by using this little headband that I had that's actually a little bear headband. So I had construction paper, I had red glitter, and it just worked out perfectly fine. Maybe I'll wear it. Let me just put my hair in a bun. BRB. Wow, my closet door was open this whole time. What? Okay, I am ready to get started. So today's story takes place in downtown LA. This hotel is called, I think it's Cecil, the Cecil Hotel. I learned a lot about this place just trying to get as much info for you on this video, and it's things that I had no idea took place here. So it's crazy. It's crazy. If you're not ready, get ready. So I am going to try to focus a little bit more on the death of this young woman that took place not too long ago. It's actually in 2013. But before I go into detail with this mysterious death, I do want to give you guys a little history on the hotel itself, because this hotel has experienced so many deaths that I don't even know if they honestly have count on how many deaths have happened here, but I'm pretty sure it's over the hundreds. And I'm sure hotels, especially because that one's really old, I'm sure hotels have deaths, right? I'm sure people go and have accidents, they commit suicide, there's foul play, there's murders, but I don't think I've ever heard of a hotel experiencing these many deaths. So I was a little caught off guard. I was just like, what? Like, there has to be something here that's causing all of this, right? I was like, why is there so many deaths here? So this hotel was actually built back in 1923. In 1923, the owner that had invested in this building had, of course, really high hopes for it. He actually intended for it to be a hotel for those who traveled, you know, what normally hotels are for. But unfortunately, the Great Depression hit. I believe it was 2 years after this hotel had its opening. So when this Great Depression hit, it did become the home to thousands of homeless people. It started being known as somewhere where junkies would be, homeless people, criminals. Let's back up a little bit. This hotel has 700 rooms. Okay, so that is a lot. That is a lot of rooms. That is a lot of people that it could hold. It has I believe it was 14 or 15 floors, not counting the 13th floor, because if you have or haven't noticed, a lot of people don't like to have a 13th floor on their building because it's a superstitious number and it is believed to pretty much bring like bad omens and just things that you wouldn't want in, of course, your building. So of course you have to have a 13th floor, but it's just not added like as a number. So instead of from 12 going to 13, I'll jump to 14, or it'll be like 12A, just so that, you know, no one's alarmed with the number 13. I feel like there's people that of course would want to stay there, but there's a lot more that would be like, I'd rather not risk it. A little quick fun fact: in China, actually, they avoid the floors with number 4 on them because in Mandarin, the number 4 actually sounds similar to the word death. So they avoid having the number 4 on any floors. So before I touch base on the main character in this video, I did want to give you a little background on this building and the amount of crazy deaths that have happened here. It experienced its first death as early as 2 years into their grand opening. After that, it was just downhill. All these deaths were starting to happen. In 1932, a resident actually committed suicide by slashing their throat. Okay, and of course, I feel like it's something that is expected around this time. If the Great Depression had hit, of course, there was all these homeless people, and unfortunately, there was a lot of depressed people. So it is, I guess, not shocking that there was a lot of deaths. Just crazy that it all happened in this one hotel. So after that, around 1962, and again, I said there's been so many deaths here, so I'm not going to obviously say all of them, but you're going to hear about some really crazy ones. In 1962, there was a woman who got in a fight with her husband, I believe. I don't know if it was kind of just like a fight. I don't know, maybe she was going through depression. I don't know. The point is that she ended up jumping out of the building, and she was actually on one of the higher floors. She was on the 9th floor, and sadly, very unfortunate, there was someone walking down the street. So when she jumped out this window, she ended up landing on a pedestrian who was, again, sadly, a 62-year-old man. And because of the impact of the fall, it ended up killing both of them instantly. If you haven't heard about the Black Dahlia, which you should have by now, the Black Dahlia was a woman as well who experienced a gruesome murder and was found in a park in downtown LA. She was last seen at the bar at this hotel in Cecil, at the Cecil Hotel, that night that she was murdered. I just want to know what the connection is here, because that is some crazy shit. Sorry to say, but that is crazy. Like, how? What? So the higher floors were actually known to have more criminal activity going on. One guy was robbed and beaten and thrown out of his window from one of the higher floors. So you could only imagine the things that would go down in this hotel. For a person that watches all these crime documentaries, and literally I will binge true crime, and I just love watching it, even though I'm the hugest scaredy cat, I had no idea about this hotel. The latest murder took place in 2015. Sorry, not murder, it was a suicide. It was the last body that was found of someone who committed suicide. A lot of people would commit murder here. It was either by slashing their throats, they would pop pills, they would poison themselves, they would jump off the building, they would be murdered. There was a woman, a former manager that worked there, that said that in the 10 years that she worked there, which was from 2007 to 2015, she saw about 80 deaths in the time that she was there. I was about to say that I would probably have left the place, but who knows, maybe it would intrigue me. I probably want to know why all of this is happening, but it could be just because it's on TV versus me dealing it with on real life. I'm sure it's a completely different experience seeing this happen in person. Pretty sure, 100%. If you search up the hotel now, it's called Stay on Main. Reason for that is because in 2011, it had gone under new ownership. Because it had gone under new ownership, they were trying to evict everyone that lived on the building. Keep in mind, this building was home to a bunch of low-income households where they would probably pay, from what I read, as little as $400 for a whole month. You could book a stay there for, I think I read, $14 per night. It was a very cheap price. So it had gone under new ownership. Their plan to evict all these people failed because this building, I don't know how it works exactly, but it was registered as a low-income building pretty much, so they couldn't evict the people that were there. So what they did instead was they pretty much came up with the idea of separating the hotel, making it 2 different hotels in one building. So they renamed it, or they added the name Stay on Main. That's how you will find it nowadays. How they worked around all the people that were there, where they had 2 floors that were dedicated to the new hotel, which is going to be more for those people that were traveling and looking for a hotel to stay in LA. It looked completely different. They remodeled it the best way they could because they didn't even have a huge budget to be able to do any crazy renovations. So they stuck to mainly more cosmetic renovations. They painted, they, I believe, changed the sheets. They just try to make it a little bit more nicer, so that when people would book online, they would just have a nicer feel to it. The only thing that they had in common were the elevators. So they were able to even have 2 different lobbies. I believe the parking was separate. The floors were just 2 were dedicated to the newer hotel, and then the rest of the floors were for all the residents, all the people that were already living there. The only thing that kept these 2 separate hotels together were their elevators. You could have been next to a criminal, you just didn't know in that hotel. So that's pretty scary. I feel like normally when you try to book out a room, as long as they look nice, you'll take that leap to be like, okay, I can stay here. But a lot of times it's people that are traveling from out of the country, from a different state, and they don't even know the area. They don't know if it's a bad area. They don't know the history of the area. I'm sure that the people that were in the area were familiar with what was happening there, but of course people that were traveling, coming from a different country, had no idea of what went down in this hotel. One of the really known serial killers stayed there for a few months. I'm sure you guys have heard about him. He was known as the Night Stalker. So the Night Stalker's name was Richard Ramirez. Richard Ramirez was found guilty of many murders. From what I remember, I believe it was around 14, if I'm not mistaken, or somewhere around there. I'm sorry, I don't have the exact number. I don't remember it. He stayed there for a few months. He was renting the room for as little as $14 per night. Imagine being in an elevator and seeing this guy, and then like later finding out that he's a serial killer. I'm sure a lot of people went through that. It's just, it goes through your head, like, would I have been one of his victims? You know, you just never know. You never know when you're dodging a bullet in this world, because there's so much craziness that you just don't know. So if you haven't heard about the Night Stalker and you're into these type of stories, this is true crime right here, okay? So if you haven't heard about him, look it up. I think there's like a documentary about him on Netflix. He's known. So if you haven't heard about him and are interested, Richard Ramirez, Night Stalker, he murdered a lot of people. I think I'm very sad. I think one of his very first victims, from what I remember, it may have been like his first or second one, but one of his first victims was a 9-year-old that he, I hate to say it, like it's so sad, he raped and murdered her, and that's when it all started with this poor little girl. But that's another story. That's another case. That's another, the point of this, of me sharing this hotel's, because I wasn't even trying to go into, you know, murder stories, but it's just this hotel is very creepy, and I'm trying to go with, you know, spooky, scary stories. And even though this is not really like a paranormal type of thing, it is something spooky that has happened in this hotel, and it's just very weird for a hotel to have this many killings. Like, is there something evil in this hotel, or is it the area? Is it because of the Great Depression that just, you know, a bunch of depressed people ended up there, homeless people, or is there just something more deep into it? I don't know. Let me know what you think. I just find it weird. I mean, it is a hotel that has 700 rooms, which is room for a lot of people, and I guess it is in an area where these things tend to happen more. It's just very interesting, but sad, of course. If you believe in like ghosts and spirits or whatever you believe in, you know, just imagine this hotel that has had so many murders happen. Imagine the amount of lost souls that are in this hotel. Like, they might as well just should make it a haunted hotel, because at this point, who would want to stay there? Damn, who would want to stay there? Watch me booking a room. Just kidding. I'm just kidding, guys. I'm just kidding. Okay, now to the main story here. The main character. The reason why I came across this hotel. Elisa Lam. Elisa Lam was a Canadian student who was traveling the West Coast and ended up booking a room at Stay on Main, not the Cecil. I'm having a hard time saying this. I want to say Cecil Hotel, but it's Cecil Hotel. That's how I heard everyone and their mama saying it on all the videos that I was watching. Cecil. So she booked at Stay on Main, which was the hotel that was meant for the ones that were traveling and looking for a nice little hotel to stay at. And this is where I was talking about that when you're coming from a different country, you don't know where you're staying at. You don't know if you're gonna end up in a hotel that has had, this was back in 2013, so it had already had a lot of deaths. And for her to just, obviously it's sad that she booked a room there not knowing the danger that she was going to be, she could have been facing, even though you're gonna find out how she died. And it could have been, it could have been anything, but she was actually blogging her whole travel experience with on her social media. I know she was using Tumblr a lot, and I don't know if you like blog on Tumblr. I don't think I ever really used Tumblr. I did have it for like a little bit, and it was more of anonymous posts, but I don't know exactly how it worked. So I don't know if she blogged her experience on Tumblr, or if she was sharing or blogging, like if she had a website where she was blogging her traveling experience. I don't know exactly how that was being handled, but I do know that she would post, by the way, there's a Netflix documentary on this as well. I forgot the name of it, but I'll put it on here if you're interested in watching it. It goes into detail about the hotel and mainly on Elisa Lam and her death. Elisa would actually post asking pretty much to meet up with strangers. I'm pretty sure it was because she was traveling alone, and for her to travel alone, she did have to convince her parents, because she was a 21-year-old. She was born on April 30th of 1991. So we are the same age. I honestly I looked up her age and her date of birth until the end of my research, and I was like, wow, she was born the same year. Like, she would have been my age. Like, how sad is that? I didn't find that out until the end of my research. Her date of birth should have probably came up right at the beginning, or I should have figured it out based on her age and the year that it happened. But honestly, I wasn't doing the math. I wasn't doing any of that until the end, that I saw her actual date of birth and I was like, oh, she was born the same year I was born. Interesting. So it's just that. I hope she's resting in peace. So the way that she convinced her parents to let her go is by her making a deal with them that she was going to contact them every single night, and she was going to make sure that, you know, she called them and told them that she was okay, she was alive. Obviously, I don't know how that conversation went, but that was a deal. So she was doing good. She was calling them every single day. And then on January 31st of 2013, her parents didn't get the call. So of course they were worried, because she had told them that she would call them every single day. She had done so already for, I don't know how long she had been traveling already, but she had already been doing so. So of course it raised some concern for them, and they actually ended up getting the cops involved. Her parents of course flew in to help the cops investigate and find out what happened here. So she was last seen on an elevator footage. So she was seen in the hotel on the elevator acting very strange, and you can find this video. I will try to post a little bit of it on here, but she's seen going in and out. It looks like she's kind of talking to someone. It's a strange video. It looks like she's just pressing all these buttons. I don't know if she's trying for the elevator to go up or down to her floor, or for the doors to close, but they don't close. You can see that it stays open. And when she steps out of the elevator, it finally closes and she's gone. But it did look very strange. So if you see the full video, you could search it up. You just have to put Elisa Lam's elevator footage, which went viral actually when the cops had released it. They had released it several days after she had gone missing. She went missing again on January 31st. They released this video on February 13th in hopes of getting someone to come forward and help them, and it went viral. This video went viral. It went so viral that people that were not even cops or detectives started doing their own research. They started creating their own scenarios, their own beliefs of what happened. And you can find a lot on this case. It's actually pretty crazy. When I was reading on it, when I looked up scary stories, I was reading about it and I told myself, this sounds familiar. So once I started doing more research on it, I went on Netflix because I found out there was a Netflix series on this, and I realized that I had actually watched it already. So it made so much sense as to why it sounded familiar. The cops had a full day where they had the staff and everyone searching all floors, every single room, every hallway, to see if they found anything, all the closets in the rooms, everything. They had them searching for any of her belongings to get any type of information on this missing person. I'm going to apply my lashes on and I will be right back. I am back and I went for this kind of reddish brownish wig that I have because I feel like the black one that I have is too short. Where are my ears? Okay, they are. Let me put on my Diablito ears. Ooh, okay, lipstick is next before I start talking again. I'm doing Midnight by Anastasia Beverly Hills. Back to Elisa Lam. So Elisa Lam was being searched for in every floor, every room, with no luck. They even had some scent dogs searching for her. They had given the dog some of her items so they could pretty much know what she smells like and try to find her. When they thought that they had gotten closer, because one of the dogs had led them to a window that led to like the stairs to go to the roof, I believe, to a ladder or something, it was a dead end. So around this time, there was a few guests that were starting to complain about the pressure in the water. There was a woman that had stayed there for 8 days during the time that the investigation was being held, and she said that the water would actually come out black when you would just turn it on for about the first 2 seconds, and then it would go back to normal. And the tap water had a very strange taste to it. In her words, it was a funny, sweetie, disgusting taste. This person didn't complain about the water to the hotel because they figured it was just something that was normal at this hotel. So because some of the guests started to complain about the pressure in the water and of course that weird odd taste, one of the employees finally decided to go to the roof and check the water tanks. This took place on February 19th. The employee got a ladder and went up to the tanks to check to see what was going on with the water, and this is when the authorities were involved and they found Elisa Lam's naked, decomposing body in one of the water tank. Did someone throw her in there? What was the scenario for her to end up in a water tank? It was found out that she actually had a bipolar disorder and she was on meds because she suffered with mental illness. She happened to be off her meds from what I read during this time, and it is believed that she was having an episode in the elevator, which would explain that odd behavior that she had, and because of this it was ruled as an accidental death. It is something that left everyone just with the what ifs. What if it's not an accidental death? What if it wasn't an episode? How did she end up there by herself? So of course it raised a lot of concerns. Me even watching this, I was thinking, no, there's no way this was an accidental death. Like, look at the history of this hotel, look at all the criminals that are there. But unfortunately, because of that video footage and there not being anyone in that elevator with her, kind of does explain if she was having an episode, a psychotic episode. But it can also mean other things. For those that do believe in life after death, or just, you know, spirits and ghosts, things like that, you start to wonder, could this have been because she was seeing something that we couldn't see? After all those deaths that hotel has had, all these criminals that were there and all these suicides, I could only imagine that there was evil trapped in that hotel, and I'm sure there still is. But what do you think? Because it could be either or. I feel like I didn't know her personally and I didn't find any information on how she was exactly, if something similar had happened to her before where she wandered off, if she was off her meds. I don't know her history when it comes to that, so there wasn't much on that to know if this was some normal behavior for her if she was off meds. It just became this big mystery on this girl who ended up on the water tank on this unfortunate hotel that has had all these deaths and murders and all these criminals there and serial killers. And because I know Richard Ramirez was not the only one, I know there was another one, I don't remember the name of him though. But it's just strange that it did happen there, and it seemed like she had a lot going for her. That's what's upsetting, that her life was cut short, and who knows where she would have been now, being 31 years old. Would she still be traveling? Would she have found the love of her life? Like, it's just things that got me thinking, you know. And it's very sad that things like that really do happen, and you just never know when your last when it's your last day on this earth. So enjoy every day to the fullest. About this hotel, just so that we wrap it up here, this hotel is actually currently closed. It was bought by a new owner back in 2017. It was supposed to be, or it was under renovations. I think they were going to add like a rooftop, a pool, a gym. Those are the things that I read on, but because of the pandemic, those renovations were put to a stop, or they were slowed down. I don't know exactly what happened, and it caused it to be closed for the meantime. I don't know if they do have plans on opening it still. I don't know if the whole pandemic affected them to where they can't open it anymore, but as of now, that hotel is closed down, so it's not like you can try to book a room. If there's any stories that you have heard of that I didn't mention about this hotel, you could go ahead and drop them down in the comment section. That way everyone can read about it and see what else went down in this crazy hotel that I would probably consider haunted by this point, like with all these murders and all these suicides. And I did want to say also, if you are someone who suffers with mental health and has ever had suicidal thoughts, I will provide a hotline for you guys on here, because I know it's such a serious it's our mental health matters, and it's something that's serious that not a lot of people pay attention to and or spread awareness about. I guess it's being more open now, but I just wanted to throw it in there in case you need it, or you know of someone that needs it, because we got to be there for each other. But that's going to be it for today's video. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you for being here, and I will see you on the next one. Love you. Besos.